Being a fresh high school leaver and starting to become a future educator has the advantage and perspective of the current education system and school environments. I would say that I have an advantage being able to study the ideal direction for the postmodernist education approach, whilst being a student who understands where it is right now. It has given me great insight into what I as an educator need to do to decipher my professional identity in teaching, whilst also enacting change to the classrooms and that will assist the next generations as they grow up in them. Hello, my name is William. I'm studying EDES101, Educational Thought on Tuesdays, and I'm studying a Bachelor of Education Secondary, Bachelor of Arts Visual Arts at ACU. The idea of teaching specifically visual arts was influenced upon me before I was even considering the idea of teaching itself. I had always had an affinity for visual arts and education-based environments where I was able to test myself and learn. And as a young student, I had a male art teacher who encouraged me to improve and develop myself in the studies and theory. Their influence is why I would like to teach, as one day I hope that I could do the same for students of my own. Changing from a small school to a large school in year 11 enabled me to reach new heights in my education, as I received the opportunity to take an 8-semester teaching course. Looking back, it's more like teaching chose me opposed to me choosing it. The idea of the suit course kind of just fell into my lap, and it was the ideal career for me. Has been so a monumental change in my life, alongside the partaking in the suit scholarship program. That experience was great because it made me reflect on the positive influences that my teachers had left on me and opened my eyes to what it's like to be a teacher and how I as a teacher would love to serve and educate the next generation of learners whilst creating positive environments and experiences which would leave them with the opportunity for growth and discovery.
I, as a future educator, believe that Biesta's concepts of philosophical work needed to amend challenges in education to develop community and perspectives for the classroom. Biesta stated that obstruction to education was education itself, as it had been learnified alongside other challenges like weakness, existence, soul, and truth affecting it. This challenged my views of what I consider to be education and made me reconsider how I viewed the concept of education and its agenda. Biesta proposed the idea of education had been influenced to represent a newer concept called learnification, stating that we seem to have lost sight of questions about values, purpose, and goodness of education, rather that learning is basically an individualized concept and that it refers to what people do as individuals. Biesta's view of education, not learning, has made me aware of the contrasting nature of learning to the concept of education, as education relies on the establishment of a relationship between two persons. Biesta has influenced me to develop my understanding of this concept and the concept that education means to educate someone and establish purpose and reason within activities, and learning is essentially a process term, as Biesta explains, that is regarded to hold no direction, going on to say that education in some ways always was framed and constituted by the ends. Biesta also discusses the notions of weakness, not strength, the fact that education is framed by the ends, and the judgment about what is educationally desirable comes from the fact that education as an activity is characterized by notions such as influence, interaction, and intervention, stating that education is probably tied to notions of social phenomena. Biesta states that connection with social phenomena holds a strong and credible claim to education, as it promotes innovation in interpretive reason and education. This view and reasoning highly alter my perspective on social phenomena in educational settings, with Biesta stating, "It is never the ambition of teachers that their students remain dependent on them. It is an important reason for not wanting to treat students simply as material to be molded or as objects to be trained." Biesta also advocates for the concept of truth, not perspective, acknowledging that notions of truth is enormously complicated, and we are encouraged to shift the notion of truth to the idea of perspectives, with Biesta stating, this allows them to argue that we can have different perspectives on the same issue, depending on our point of view. Biesta states that for educational environments to prosper, the notion of perspectives must be alternated in favor of the aspect of truth. The idea that discussions are framed by our own truths, with meaning behind them deriving from individuals' experience, opposed to the singular constructive perspective, which I found to be quite an accurate way of representing how discussion is carried in the current education environment. Being a recent school leader, I found that Biesta challenges the agenda and constructs multiple dimensions of education to be an accurate and effective system for education-based environments. The readings of Biesta connected with me on a personal level, as I was able to understand why the need for agenda was established, for the same reason why my values like equity, community, and well-being are the most prevalent choice. The agenda fosters opportunity for students to overcome barriers in learning, whilst accommodating development and interpersonal communication between students and educators regarding their educational journey. My teaching philosophy aimed to encourage my students to adopt values such as communication, grit, equity, and curiosity. Like my visual arts teacher who inspired me to become a teacher in a largely female-orientated area of study, I plan on creating an educational environment which fosters academic excellence in students and promotes positive experiences within education, alongside personal expression and development for growth and discovery. Thank you.